I do agree with the majority that it's somewhat important, and I know that sounds a little vague, so I'm going to explain what I mean by that. When it comes to having a future career path, it's good to have an idea of what you're interested in, simply because, for one, that's something you're going to encounter in applications. However, you don't need to be, scared or concerned if you haven't decided on your future career. You never really know where life will take you. If someone had told me in grade 12 that I'd be a scholarship consultant, I would have thought they were out of their mind. So you never really know how things will go. And you're young, you have tons of time to figure it out. But for the purposes of applications, it's good to have something to work with, so when you do encounter the question, you have an answer prepared. So something that can be a helpful exercise for you is to just take a few minutes and make a list of the top 3 fields that you're interested in. Then take a few extra minutes to brainstorm reasons why, at least 2, try to go for 3, reasons why that field is important to you. So that way when you encounter questions like, what are the top 3 career paths that you're interested in, you have an answer set to go. Now, often when you encounter this question, they may have somewhat of a paragraph-long answer for it. So, discuss what your future career path is in 200 words or less. Now, when you're working with 200 words, say there's, 2 career paths that you're 100% equally interested in. In 200 words, you can't really give full justice to either of those. So for the purposes of the application, it's more beneficial to hone in on one, so you can give a full, concrete, and well thought out answer and give justice to that one specific career path. So that's what you try to want to go with, just so it doesn't sound like you're all over the place and kind of running on and giving a little snapshot of 3 different ones when you can focus in on one and present more of a well-rounded picture. Now, something you need to focus on throughout the entire essay, you really need to focus on emphasizing your strengths. If you don't tell them how amazing you are, how are they going to know? A scholarship essay is no time to be humble. And like I mentioned before, I know it's a little awkward to talk about yourself in this way. It feels a little strange. However, that's why the scholarship process is a great learning process. It's a very important life skill to be able to fully, number 1, know what your strengths are, and 2, be able to articulate them to someone else. So working on that throughout scholarships, it's great because it's something you're going to need throughout university, and also when you get into going to interviews and job interviews and things like that. Now, as you're emphasizing your strengths, you want to try to use commanding language. You don't want to sell yourself short here. So instead of saying that you're nice and hardworking, say that you're dynamic and innovative and accomplish X, Y, and Z. Strong, powerful language that makes it clear that you know what your strengths are and you're comfortable expressing them to someone else. Now, having said that, while you're emphasizing your strengths, you need to make sure that you maintain a balance there as well. Now, while articulating your different strengths, you want to be mindful of your tone. Of course, there's such a thing as overconfidence. You don't want to tell them to bow down in the face of your academic prowess or anything like that. You don't want to come across as arrogant or cocky. So just don't go over the top or try to exaggerate. Just try to use language that's strong and powerful to get your point across. Now, another really critical thing to do with every single application that you encounter is take the time to research whoever is providing the scholarship, whether that be an institution, a foundation, organization, you name it. You want to find out what they're all about. What is their mission statement? What are their values? Now, it's often very easy to locate this information. Usually if you hop onto their website, they usually have an About Us section that kind of explains all of that. So what you want to do is, once you familiarize yourself with these key items, take a few minutes and brainstorm some connections. So in which way do you kind of embody the values of this company? Or in which way is there overlap between their vision and your vision? And then you want to tie this into your conclusion. So for example, when I was applying to SFU, their slogan, one of their slogans was that they were committed to discovery, dialogue, and diversity. So my conclusion, I said, at this stage of my education, SFU's commitment to discovery, dialogue, and diversity will be invaluable to me, etc., etc. So by incorporating that personal element, 1, you're making it personal for that specific scholarship, which is always a great thing to do. You're demonstrating that you've done your homework, that you know what this group is about. And 3, you're doing some of the thinking for them because you're demonstrating that connection there, clear as day, so they can immediately see it simply by reading your essay. So always make sure that you take that extra 15 minutes of your time to find out what the organization is all about so you can incorporate those personal elements. And it doesn't just have to be in your conclusion. It can be throughout the rest of the essay as well. Making it as personal as possible is what's going to help you stand out. So definitely taking the extra few minutes to incorporate that and tie it throughout your essay will take it to the next level and help make you stand out. Now, if you ever encounter a question and you just feel like you've hit a brick wall with it, you have no idea where to go or how to get started, there's a way you can combat that writer's block. A great strategy is to take the essay question and simply break it down into a variety of smaller questions. Now, answering a series of smaller questions is a lot easier for you just because it's going to get your creative juices flowing, and it's easier to answer a few quick questions that you can then put together afterwards. So in order to come up with these smaller questions, what you want to do is base them around that essay framework that I mentioned before. So that framework of reflecting how experiences have impacted your life. So just to demonstrate how you can do that, say the question was, discuss the role education has played in your life. So if you want to break down that essay question into smaller questions based off that framework, you could go with something like this. What does education mean to you in one word? What are 3 valuable life skills you have learned? How have you used these skills in other ways? How will these skills assist you as you begin your post-secondary journey? Now, answering these 4 questions, it won't take you that much time. They're pretty quick to get through because they're all very specific. However, by taking those few minutes just to answer these questions, what you've done is built an outline for yourself. It's a skeleton of all the key points you need to incorporate into your essay and that you can simply build on from there. It's a lot easier to have those key points of information to kind of expand into paragraphs and add in your transition. So if you start off here, it can kind of just, again, get the creative juices flowing, give you a starting point, and take away that stressed out feeling you get from writer's block. Now, editing is crucial. You want to make sure that you edit your paper as much as you possibly can. Now, every sentence has to count. Now, in regard to the question that was asked about word count, you definitely want to respect the word count. If they ask for 500 words, you give them 500 words. You give them 550, 600, they will notice. Plus, it's not really fair if you give them 600 words when everyone else had 500. That's the extra 100 words you had to articulate your strengths and all your great qualities. So it becomes an unfair imbalance there. So how you can kind of cut down your essay if it's just really long. What someone was saying about cutting out creative elements, if you've built a really long story for your introduction, say, then you want to try to break that down to a few sentences. You want everything to be as key or as clear and concise as possible. Another great way to cut down the word count is to look for filler words and edit them out. So what I mean by filler words are words like very, a lot, many. We use words like that to emphasize meaning, but what they often do is detract from the overall impact of the sentence. If you go through and just, with a highlighter, it's a really great tool, just go through, highlight all the words that are like that throughout your essay. If you cut all of them out, you'll find that your essay actually flows better and makes more of an impact at every sentence. So try to cut those out because they take up quite a few words and they don't really contribute that much to make them relevant to be there. Now that's something else you want to focus on is relevance. As you go through your essay, constantly stop yourself at every sentence and ask yourself, how is this relevant? How does this contribute to my overall meaning? If you aren't able to answer that, then it probably doesn't need to be in your essay because it's not contributing anything. Now another thing to pay close attention to as you're editing your essay is grammar and spelling. Now I know that sounds painfully obvious, but a grammatical error or spelling mistake can simply leap off the page. So you don't want to kind of add that kink into your essay by having that spelling error or grammatical mistake throw them off. Now to combat that, just make sure you use tools like spell check, but also ask other people for feedback. Try to get as much feedback as possible just so you can really fine-tune your essay and make it as solid as possible. Now you want to make sure that you embrace the concept of multiple drafts. Your essay does not have to be perfect from the first draft, and it can't be, really, quite honestly. So you don't want to agonize over word choice over making things sound perfect. If you're so focused on perfection, what you'll end up doing is staring at a blank screen and becoming incredibly frustrated. So you want to make sure that you just let things evolve through various drafts. The most important thing to do is just get your thoughts on the page. So as soon as you sit down with a question, whether you've broken it down to smaller questions or building from there, if you're just tackling the question right off the bat, you just want to free write. Just write whatever comes to your mind, fill up the page, and don't, focus on if you've repeated the same word a few times here and there. That's okay, because again, you're going to be coming back and editing it since you're going through multiple drafts. Now, it's a lot easier to play with and manipulate and mold a whole bunch of words on the page rather than to stare at a blank page and become frustrated with it. So always focus on just letting things flow, and then you can go back and continue to edit it until it's at the point where you want it to be. Now, once you go through and you're closer to more of your final draft of the essay, that's when you want to really have a keen eye on your word choice. So as you go through a paragraph, say you see the same word, 4+ times, perhaps you're using it too much. If you use a word over and over again, it can become a little redundant and again take away from the impact of your essay. So in order to kind of combat that, use resources to expand your vocabulary. So if you use online thesauruses or dictionaries, or maybe talk to friends as well or family, a great way to switch it up. Now, having said that, I don't mean that you need to inject all these incredibly long words into your essay. The longest word doesn't necessarily equal the best choice. It's just about having variety so that things flow and that so your essay doesn't become redundant with the same word being repeated over and over again. And finally, you want to be focused on making your essay work for you. What you want to do is, as you're building your template base that you can continue to work from, you want to make sure that you create a dynamic template. So what I mean by that is that you want to make sure that all your paragraphs flow together. At the same time, it's helpful if each of them has a key thought or key idea so it can be extracted. Now, why that's helpful is that some applications will ask you a series of smaller questions rather than one 500-word essay. They'll ask you for, say, 3 to 6 300-word questions. So when you encounter those smaller questions, you want to make sure that you have a way to tackle them. So if your template's built in such a way that each paragraph has its own key idea, then you can use that as a starting point to extract those paragraphs and build from them to answer all these smaller questions. And applications like Loran Award and Terry Fox are really well known for that. That's how they often structure it. And it can be a good way to get more of a well-rounded picture of who a student is and what they're all about. So that's part of the reason why they do that. So just be focused on, as you're building your template, to make sure that you have those key thoughts in each paragraph so it can be useful for you in a variety of forms. So essentially, when it comes to scholarship essays, they aren't something that you need to be frightened of or intimidated by. The most important thing is that you really just inject your personality in there. You have to keep in mind that often they're working from a stack of papers. That's all they know about you. So you really want to seize the opportunity that is a scholarship essay to really highlight all the great qualities that you have and make it clear to them that you're a great candidate for their scholarship. And I hope that the strategies and the tips I went through there will be helpful for you as you work on building your own essays. And just to let you know about a few other services that I offer. I have a website, keytoscholarships.com, which I'll take you to in a moment. My email is brittany@keytoscholarships.com. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Unfortunately, I'm not able to edit essays through email simply because with the number of students I work with, it's just not possible. However, if you have a question about an essay, say you're debating between 2 topics or something like that, then I'm happy to answer that question for you. Any other questions you have about the scholarship process in general, so please feel free to contact me. I'm here to help. I'm also on Twitter at UIF Scholarships and Facebook /UnlockYourFuture. And I just use social media to kind of update students on what's going on, scholarship deadlines, announcements, things like that. So that can be helpful to follow us there as well. I'm just going to go out of the PowerPoint for just a moment here and take you to the website. Now this is the home page of my website, and on further down here, you can link to our Twitter and our Facebook account directly from here. So if you forget what they are, if you just pop on here, that can connect you. Now, a few of the features that I have on my website, I do have a student resource center. So I already have a page open up here. So I just put a bunch of different resources here that I think can be helpful for students as they go through the scholarship process. So things like useful links. There's a scholarship application checklist that kind of gives you a few key pointers to think about before you send off an application. I create a scholarship calendar every year, so I take a calendar and put a whole bunch of applications on it, and also create a second document that has a list of all those applications. So just to give you a quick, easy starting point to get going on a few different applications. And then down here, just information about how you can kind of create and build your own volunteering and leadership opportunities. Now, another thing I just want to bring to light as well is UIF scholarships here. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, I give out 3 Unlock Your Future scholarships every year. So this year I have 3 scholarships totaling $1,000. Only eligibility criteria is that you're currently a grade 12 student graduating from high school this year, and that you participate in the aspect of the Unlock Your Future program, which includes webinars. So any of you grade 12 students, really encourage you to send in an application. You can download it from right here. It's due on Monday, April 30th, but it just has to be postmarked by the 30th. So you still definitely have enough time to send it in. Would love to receive your application, so hope to get them from you. And finally, there's a little store button on my website as well. I've been running Unlock Your Future for about 7 years now, and like I said, one of my main services is a seminar that I tour throughout BC. And I'm often asked at the end if I have something for people to take away that kind of goes through the entire Unlock Your Future seminar step by step. So what I created is an Unlock Your Future Scholarship Workbook, and it just goes through all those key steps and the different management systems you can use to approach the scholarship process and to do well with it. So I ship my workbook throughout Canada. If you're interested in purchasing one, it's $20 and then $3 for shipping and handling. Just click the Buy Now button and it will take you to our PayPal page. And then further down here, it just kind of elaborates on everything that's covered in the workbook and what we focus on there. So I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. I hope that it was helpful and useful and that you enjoyed the presentation. And I'm going to pass it over to the Scholarships Canada team, see if you have any more questions that I can answer for you guys.